EFI University is hosting a new class called Essentials of Operating a Shop. If you're interested in learning how to run your shop more efficiently, this class is for you. The next course will be held in San Jose, California on March 5th, followed by Orlando, Florida on April 16th. For more details, go to EFI101.com and look for the Essentials of Operating a Shop class. Be sure to use the coupon code DIFAL for $50 off.
This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
You've got to monitor all the places where people will discuss your brand, and that means the products you sell, the services you provide. That means everywhere online, wherever it is your audience lives. You kind of have to be there, because if you're not there, you don't know what's being said, and you can't prevent, things from happening.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
All right, welcome back. I've got Chris Raymond with me from Garage40 and DSMtuners.com. He's an internet-savvy consulting company, and DSM Tuners is a forum that he's owned for several years. Chris does SEO and social media for people, and he's going to kind of give us his take on how that whole industry and how you can leverage his information to run your shop better. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. And this is kind of a new industry, the social media and I guess consulting for this. And at SEMA, there are people that do it, and like you hear about it here and there. But you're going to be able to give us an idea of what you do and what other shops should be doing on their social media side. So Facebook, Instagram, if they use Twitter, and even their own web pages, what they can do to kind of improve it so that their company gets visibility that they need. And so, Chris, kind of give us a background of yourself first. What did you do to get involved in motorsports, and how did you get started? What's your background? Kind of take us back to when you were a kid.
Well, I think it's something I've always been into as far as cars. I've always loved cars. I've always loved racing. When I was a kid, I was into drawing cars, playing with model cars, RC cars, anything that could, get me closer to that type of stuff. I've been a little artistic. I've always been into drawing, and that kind of led me into like graphic design. Actually, funny enough, I actually did tattoos for a little while when I was in high school. And that was kind of an experience, but it wasn't something that I could tell that I was going to be doing forever. So that's when I started looking at graphic design, and that kind of took me into building websites. It was something I could see that was going to start taking off back in the mid to late 90s, and kind of dating myself here, I guess. But
it's okay. That dates me too, because that's where I'm from.
So yeah, just seeing what was coming with that, I figured it was probably something pretty good to get into, and that jumping into websites, you start learning about marketing, SEO, even stuff that you weren't really focused on in the beginning, in terms of design. It just it just opens a ton of opportunities up to you when you start getting into that stuff. So I started building websites, and I launched DSM Tuners back in, what was it, 2001. Mid 2001 was when I launched DSM Tuners.
So what made you want to get involved with DSM webpage? Like, where was your interest in the DSMs? Is that just a car you had?
You know what? Strangely enough, it was actually my wife's car back before she was my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she had a 1991 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, and I was actually telling her, you need to sell that thing. It's turbocharged. It's it's going to give you a lot of problems. And I was into V8s at the time, and I just I started looking at stuff online, and two things happened. One, I saw that the Mitsubishi Eclipse, the DSM platform was pretty, had a lot of potential, back then. And it also showed me the power of finding stuff as an enthusiast, the power of the internet, and internet forums and communities. Everything that you could find out, it was all out there. And it pretty much, that was it. That was my point right there where it all clicked. And I said, you know what I should do? I'm going to open a DSM. I'm going to launch a DSM site, even though there were a couple around already. I saw ways to do some things that weren't being done at the time. And it's kind of been, it's been a life-changing experience just because of all the people that I've met and all the things that I've been able to do as a result of launching that site, and then, working on other, car forums and other community sites along the way. That was kind of my hobby turning into a business.
When did you create the webpage?
DSM Tuners I started working on it back in 2000. Before then, I had already had a job working on internet forums and communities, and I had already built and managed a few of them before then. And so right around late 2000, early 2001, I was working on V-Bulletin forums. And so I wanted to try some things that I couldn't do with the communities that I was already working on. So I figured, you know what, I'll just launch a DSM site and implement all these ideas that I had. And it just went from there. Cool.
So you created a DSM forums. Is that something that actually brought in revenue? Did you use advertising on it? Is that something that you were able to make into a business and not just a webpage?
Yeah. I mean, you have to. The way those sites are monetized, you get advertising dollars through them, and that's through either shops that make parts for those cars, but you also do like banner ads from networks. You do affiliate stuff. There's several ways to monetize them, but the main one is advertising with vendors that focus on that market. So the site itself wasn't, it's not a big, huge moneymaker or anything. Especially not anymore. I mean, there's, it's kind of dying out a little bit, but I was able to launch a couple other sites and try to, I built up a little network, and that started working well for me.
Okay. So you have this webpage, and you made it sounds like straight out of high school is kind of where you went. Did you have a day job beforehand?
Yeah, I had a day job that, again, it was very similar to, it was just managing communities. It was, managing community forums for different, home audio, and video, video gaming. I actually built another car website that was more of a research website. But they all had something in common, and that was basically a forum where it was all based on user-generated content, where people came in and talked to each other and shared ideas, and there were always vendors involved that focused on those markets as well. So that's where I started finding that, being in that situation, I learned a lot about what I could do to help some of these vendors who a lot of the times didn't know how to interact with those forums. They just knew that they had to be involved and advertise there and put up a banner, and that was their key to trying to build a business in that industry or in that market. So throughout the years, that's kind of where Garage40 came from, and that's basically just a way for me to offer services to those very same vendors that were advertising in forums and still do to this day. But now it's kind of branched out to social media, to email marketing, to SEO, to web design, all those services that those vendors needed. That's kind of what I'm helping them do now.
So you're self-taught, or did you take classes for like high school or college for, do you have a degree for this? How did you get involved in coding other than just having an interest in it?
You know what? It all came down to, I only went to school for graphic design. I took a course, learned Photoshop and Illustrator. And when I looked at websites, I basically started looking at the source code, and I started replicating those websites on free web hosting sites. I would replicate websites. I'd take the source code, tear it down, and I'd write it, and I learned how to write HTML and built it all by hand, all self-taught.
Very cool. So you were working for other websites, and you had your own going. when did you kind of transition? And you did quit a job, a full-time job, to do this on your own, right? When did that happen?
Yeah, that was back in about 03. About right around 2003 is when I went out and I had my network going. I had some client work built up, and I was able to do it full time. And it's kind of scary. It's obviously pretty scary, leaving a job that pays pretty well. And but you have to do it. It's just something that I always felt I was going to have my own business. Since I was a kid, it's just something that I love doing. And I always want to have my own business.
Tell us about the transition from quitting your job to doing your own thing. Were you married? Did you have kids at all, or a house or anything?
Yeah, when I quit, I was married at the time. My wife had just got into the mortgage industry, and she was doing fairly well, and that gave me the opportunity to take a little drop in my income to make that jump. I was already making some money, but it was it wasn't going to be the same, obviously, right out of the gate. So I was able to build it back up. I was just from hard work and getting clients on board and stuff, and then I built it up, and I was able to keep it going. So there's been dips, there's been drops. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes to make it work. But
yeah, especially today, it's changed a lot from the early 2000s. Huh?
Yes, definitely. And we have 2 little girls now, and my wife, she stays home and takes care of them, and I basically make sure that the bills are paid.
So you did have to eventually go back to working a full-time job, right?
For me, there was a couple things that really made that happen, and that was the health insurance was one of those things. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people that are in the group deal with this, but pre-existing conditions are kind of a pain in the ass. And once you have kids, trying to jump around through different insurance companies, sometimes you can't get health insurance. So that was one of the things that drove me back to getting a full-time job. And it kind of sucks sometimes,
working for the man again, huh?
when you have to go back to it, but that it's only going to be a matter of time. I mean, it's a means to an end, really. And when you're an entrepreneur, that it's going to be there's going to be times like that where you have to sacrifice what you're doing to just to put food on the table, or to do whatever it is that you have to do, whether it's health insurance or just to bridge the gap in income.
And having the family makes that the decision a lot easier to make when you need to go back to work, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, obviously. I mean, you kind of have to get over your ego a little bit, your pride, and put that aside and just do what has to be done sometimes. And knowing that you're going to get that opportunity again. And it's it always works itself out as long as you keep working hard at it. So
currently right now, you're working for somebody else, and you do have Garage40 on the side, right? That's kind of how you're doing things now. And so when did you actually start Garage40?
I mean, I guess it's been around for many years. I just doing client work throughout the years. Funny enough, I never really branded myself. I never really built a company or established a brand around the work that I was doing for clients. And so what happens is, you start doing work for all types of businesses and all types of people, and almost all of my stuff is all referral. So I get people that refer, their friends or people that they know to me, and I work on all types of different types of businesses. But I realized, probably a couple years ago, or at least a few years ago, that I kind of want to start branding myself so that I can focus a lot more on the automotive community. The cars are what drives me. So I wanted to build a brand that, people recognized, that tells you that, hey, this is what he focuses on. This is the emphasis of the business. And it's just basically, a combination of just the work that I've done and all the experiences that I've had in the automotive industry, through the forums and and all the networking that I've done.
Yeah. And so Garage40 is a LLC, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you're the only one really. I mean, it is you. Garage40 is you. You don't have any employees because you're still working full time and you're doing Garage40, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, I mean, you're looking forward into the future here. You're wanting to. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so obviously you're going to be looking to want to do this on your own again. What are you kind of looking for based off you having the experience of having done this before as a a solo, on your own, running your own business? What are you kind of looking for in your Garage40 now to know that, yes, I'm ready to do this on my own. I'm ready to, let go of the day job and, do things on my own again. What are you looking for?
I think it's just going to be a matter of finding that point, finding that point where it's where just, you have to just make that jump. It's just, I'm not sure how soon that's going to be, but, it's going to be a matter of, building up maybe a little bit more clients and getting to the point where I can make this jump, because now obviously, there's a little bit more risk involved than there was the first time around. So, I don't know. It's going to be tricky to really identify when that point's going to be, but
okay.
I can feel it. I can feel it coming.
So I mean, it's obviously going to be like a total revenue value. You're going to need to be making a certain amount of money to cover your expenses at home, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And you mentioned that you had a pre-existing health condition. Now I do actually I wondered, does Obamacare, does that help you or hurt you when you could not get insurance before and now you can through individual, right? Like you can get an individual plan that is required to cover you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, obviously the costs are not getting any lower.
Right.
But even back then, the first time around for me, the costs were always really high. It's not going to be, that's going to be, a factor in terms of, have to make even more revenue to cover that. But at least, going to an insurance company, you can't be turned away now,
Okay.
And you know what, you want to know what the pre-existing health condition was that
Tell us.
Acid reflux.
Really? That's a pre-existing health condition?
That was one of the reasons I was turned down for insurance.
Wow.
Yeah, by two companies.
But you can get it through a company group plan, right? They're required to cover you. Okay.
Yeah. So I've always, health insurance has always been a sore subject for me, but yeah.
Well, I have the very high expense of a small business, individual plan, and it is crazy expensive. And for us, Blue Cross actually cut our plan entirely. So we just got done dealing with this, and it is a pain in the butt. So I can't imagine, if there are people turning you down for a specific reason, it must be even worse. So,
yeah.
But yes,
I think it's all backwards right now, but whatever.
Okay. So go ahead and have you ever doubted yourself with either the forums or Garage40 and wondered, what if it doesn't work out, and how do you overcome that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody runs into that at some point, and I mean, for me, it's really a matter of staying focused, staying on track, coming up with a plan and really sticking to a plan, because when you're productive, when you're working on things, when you're always focused on a goal, and it's much easier to not listen to those voices in your head, right? There's always going to be those voices that, you're questioning, am I doing this right? Am I really providing value? Am I really helping people? Will people actually pay for this? There's always those questions. And even shop owners are going to, the same thing. Are there enough customers out there? Am I really going to be able to beat those people who are trying to undercut me in price? Will people pay the prices that I'm trying to charge? Right. I mean, you gotta look past that, and you gotta just keep your eye on the goal and keep working on being, being productive. And I think it also helps to, keeping yourself surrounded by like-minded people that are kind of doing what you want to do, whether that be online and Facebook groups or even just friends, just having those people that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of. And, in those times of doubt, you got to talk to people. You got to keep people, have some people around you that'll listen to what you're going through and provide some feedback or perspective, Perspective's a big key.
You're in an interesting industry where you're providing a service, and so the value of your service, if people are willing to pay it, then obviously you're providing value to them, right? And is that kind of how you know what to charge people?
True. Well, okay. So, what I do, it's a little bit different than providing a part. The cost of a part, people can jump around and find 3 other vendors really quick who sell that same.
I should amend my thing by saying you can't buy your services on Amazon, right?
True. No, but you can on Craigslist, and that's even worse sometimes. So I try not to get caught up in what other people charge because I know the value of what I do. I know the potential return that can come from it. And I know that a lot of the times when people go to hire either an agency or just somebody who kind of does a little bit of what I do, especially in the automotive world, they're not going to have the same experiences that I have, and they're not going to understand the needs. Everybody comes at it a different way. And I really have a big focus on every business, their specific needs. Every business is different, even 2 shops that do virtually the same thing. The way the shop is run is going to be different. The type of website that they need is going to be different. The way they connect with their audience is going to be different. You can't just jump on Facebook and post 5 updates a week or, twice a day, or you can't just throw numbers out there. One shop's ability to create content is going to be way different than the next. So trying to figure out solutions that are specifically tailored to each shop is something that I really put a lot of emphasis on because, the cookie cutter thing is just, you can find that anywhere, and so that's kind of what I like to focus on.
Okay. So tell us about the worst experience you've had in business. There's got to be a good story here, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, there's always a lot of those, right? So my wife and I, we had this idea. This is about, I want to say 10 years ago now. This is how we lived out in Denver at the time. And we wanted to, having moved out to Denver, but we had only been there like a couple of years. And we said, oh, you know what? Would be great would be to build this website that for the neighborhood and attractions and all the things to do in the area, and essentially what you could find on like Yelp or City Search or these, there's a whole bunch of sites out there that do that type of stuff now. But back then Yelp was fairly new. And so we figured, hey, let's do this. And I was already doing my stuff, and I kind of wanted to see if we could bring in some other people to help out. So we had this brilliant idea of bringing in our neighbors across the street in on the idea. And at first it seemed like a good idea because, hey, you've got new people involved and everybody had their own skill set, right? Well, it didn't work out. It didn't really work out well. And it got a little ugly. Well, I mean, it's always awkward, right? Everybody says don't go into business with friends. And I can tell you, you know what? It can be just as bad going into business with neighbors too, because you drive by their house every day and you're always uncomfortable with it. And I don't know that I'd ever do that again. I'm glad that we did it. I probably would do it all over again just because you have to try things. You still have to try things. You never know if they're going to work if you don't. And it was a learning experience, and you got to have those. You got to have those, just to take the next steps into any other projects that you're working on.
Okay, so tell us something you're doing right now that has you fired up.
You know what? Right now, I'm really working hard to get into building some like ebooks. I want to start putting effort into creating downloadable products, things that shop owners or businesses, especially in the automotive world, can download and learn from. Maybe eventually doing some training, but I want to start out just putting together some ebooks that people can get some value out of. A lot of what I've dealt with recently is, I work with businesses who are hiring people to do this type of to do SEO, to do social media, in-house. But from what I can see, they're hiring like low-level people, people that are, they're sweeping the floors, and then hey, they're also jumping on and posting photos on Facebook for them, or they're doing data entry, or they're doing, they're not hiring dedicated people to do it. And that usually means that they don't have a lot of experience doing this stuff. And I think I see, an opportunity to provide value in a way to where they can send, at least have these people that they're putting in these positions to do this work for them, to have some training materials that is that'll help them at least get it right, do better than what they're doing now, or learn some lessons from it and have it tailored, have the content tailored to the automotive world, because there's plenty of that information out there now. It's just, how do you cut down and really, find what applies most to shops, to the automotive scene, to, the aftermarket. And I don't know that that's out there right now. So I'm working on my first one right now. And it's funny because we've talked about Facebook attacks, and that seems to be the trend these days, is, fake reviews and mass attacks on negative reviews on people's company Facebook pages. And so my first ebook is actually going to be talking about that and how to respond and how to prevent it too. So
yeah, it's a really interesting, I can't believe people actually do that, but it's really amazing. And yeah, me and you have talked about this kind of offline several times, on people who basically their business review board gets screwed by a single person who bands together with a bunch of people who basically just go onto their page and do 1-star reviews for no reason other than the fact that somebody says they got screwed without hearing the other side of the story. So we've kind of circled around the whole SEO and brand management topic, and so now let's kind of dive into the details of what it is and what you do and how shops can take like what you have learned to kind of use that for their advantage here. So first, tell us what Garage40 exactly is and what do you do?
So essentially, Garage40 is a consulting service that focuses on automotive businesses, and I work with companies to identify and integrate solutions to some of their problems, whether that be social media, whether that be email marketing, whether that be web design, brand management, reputation management. It all depends on the needs of the customer, and that's going to be different from client to client. So depending on what you need, we'll sit down and talk, and I will kind of give you some suggestions on what I think could help. If that means I can help teach your employees or somebody who's doing that work for you, great. If that's me doing the work for you and doing monthly management services, great. Whatever works for you. That's essentially, what Garage40 is.
So what is brand management? Explain what it is and what does it entail?
Well, again, this is one of those things that kind of means different things to different people, but the way I see it is you can't really control what everybody says about your brand. But it's impossible, but you can listen to what's being said, and you can't influence the perception using brand management. The trick is you've got to be involved. You've got to be active. You've got to monitor all the places where people will discuss your brand. And that means the products you sell, the services you provide. That means everywhere online, Facebook groups, Twitter, wherever it is your audience lives, forums. You kind of have to be there. And if you're not there, you don't know what's being said, and you can't get involved, and you can't prevent things from happening, or things going down a path that can really hurt your brand image. So it's really important to be vigilant, to have it in your plan, whether you're doing it yourself. And I know a lot of shop owners don't like to trust employee to do it for them. They like to do it themselves, but a lot of the times they don't have that luxury to be doing it daily or weekly. And so it kind of slips through the cracks, and that's when you get in trouble, because when you're not paying attention, that's when those reviews happen. That's when somebody's jumping in a forum and saying, hey, this, this brand or this company, I can't get a hold of them. They're screwing me, and they kind of give their side of the story. But if you're not paying attention and you're not really monitoring those places, it snowballs. And whether or not they're correct, that's the perception. The perception is the reality, and you have to kind of be involved to counteract that stuff.
The internet is the opposite of court. You're guilty until proven innocent, huh?
Oh yes, definitely. And it's the fastest way for information to travel. And if you don't jump in early, I use a lot of analogies, but I always say that if you're not doing brand management or reputation management online, it's kind of like skipping the dentist, right? Those cavities turned into root canals real quick, and it's tough to get back what you lose when you're not paying attention online.
Okay, so what is SEO, and how does that affect a performance shop or manufacturer or a parts selling store? What is SEO, and what do you do with that? And I guess I should start to say the acronym is actually Search Engine Optimization for people who don't know what it is. So
yes, and there are other search engines out there, Bing, Yahoo, ones that people don't really use very much, but Google is what everybody talks about when they talk about SEO. If you're not focusing on SEO, you're essentially leaving money on the table. It's used by everybody. You look at it in terms of how are people searching for your products you sell or services you provide. If you're a fabrication shop, how are your customers jumping online? What keywords are they using when they jump into Google to say, hey, I need a welding shop? Are they looking for somebody local, or are they looking for parts? Let's say an exhaust system for a WRX or an Evo or something. They'll jump on and they'll look for keywords. Exhaust system for the WRX. If your page or if your website isn't coming up in those searches, somebody else's is, and usually it's your competitor. So the idea is to really sit down and focus on keyword research to find out what people are looking for and how you want to be found for those keywords, and implementing those keywords on your website, and also getting links from other companies, other industry sites and forums and blogs and everywhere else, and getting people to link to you for those keyword terms. SEO has really changed over the years. It's way different now than it used to be like 10, 15 years ago. It was really easy back then, and people were making boatloads of money because of it. Now it's a lot different, because Google they're changing the game all the time now, and they're really trying to stop people from gaming the system, because a lot of people game the system.
And so by gaming the system, you're meaning like they're focusing specifically on the keywords or whatever the search algorithms are using to bring you to the top of the list, and they're doing just that and nothing else. And,
yes.
And you're saying Google keeps changing the game so that way they just want people to be active on their webpage, and they want to have good content on it, and then that is the kind of webpage that floats to the top of a search, right?
Yes. So there's Google pretty much makes all the rules, and if you listen to Google, if you drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, they will tell you that if you just focus on your content, if you just create content regularly and post it on your website, that everything will work itself out. And yes, that is true. It will definitely help you. But I mean, let's be real. We're not all content companies. We're not in the business of creating content. And so that philosophy only goes so far with companies doing like performance shops. How much content can they really realistically generate every day, every week, every month? Yes, you still have to create it, but you also have to focus on all the other aspects that Google doesn't really want you to, and that's creating backlinks to your content, getting getting other industry sites to link to you. Their mentality is, if you create good content, people will naturally and organically link to it. But the reality is, you really have to get out there and work for those links. And the way people are gaming the system is they're going out and they're creating automated ways to generate 10,000 backlinks in various different ways. And that's where people get in trouble. That's where companies get in trouble. And that's where you got to be really careful when you're hiring an SEO company that tells you that, hey, we can get you ranked on the first page. Well, one of the ways they do that, some of these companies will do that, is by spamming and throwing out thousands of articles that make very little sense when you read them, and they'll throw a link back to your website. That's kind of how people are gaming the system.
And so, Google will actually go through and blacklist you, right? You
can, yeah. Penalties are they're real. And when you used to show up on page 1 for something, and you had somebody do some work for you that they did it in the eyes of Google, which they call black hat, you can get a penalty and you'll get dropped back, and then all of a sudden you'll see that drop in traffic pretty quick. I've seen it happen. So it's not fun. And trying to recover from those penalties is even harder than actually
doing it right the first time.
Doing it right the first time. Yeah, really. I mean, it ends up costing you way more money in the end. So you gotta, yes, focus on content, but also, you do have to put effort into generating links back to your content, because that's a huge ranking factor in Google.
Okay, so how important is this content generation that you're talking about? And when we say content generation, kind of explain what kind of content you're looking for. Is it just like a picture, or the questions to your fans on Facebook, or what kind of content is useful? And how often do you recommend posting that stuff on? And what is the best social media medium that you see?
That kind of goes back to your whole strategy and your business plan. Again, what is your business focused on? Are you going to be, do you want to be known as the biggest LS, motor swap shop or whatever it is? You start writing content, whether it be white papers, comparisons, anything that you can do, even if it's just documenting installs. Hell, shops do installs all the time. Documenting those and pointing out things about certain products, especially products they want to sell and they want to rank for in searches, you should be posting some articles about that. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be, it's just, hey, look at, here's an install we just did. Check this out. What I see a lot of people doing it the quick and easy way, and that's just posting this stuff on Facebook. The problem with that is Facebook doesn't help with SEO, in terms of that one post. What they should be doing is posting on their website, and posting links from Facebook to that article that they just wrote, with photos, and making sure that it's valuable. Even videos, upload a video to YouTube, right? Embed that video in your blog post on your website, so that it has, you give people a reason to go to your website. And YouTube, you got a link on YouTube pointing back to you. That helps with SEO. Facebook is great for telling people about the content that you're posting on your website. Email marketing, sending out email blasts to your past customers. Email lists are huge. That's probably the best way to reach out to your customers, right? So I always see email lists being the top way to tell people about the content you're posting on your website. Then I start looking at, again, depending on the client, it could be Facebook. It really depends on what's easiest for you and your shop, and it also depends on where your shop, where the audience is. Who's your audience and where do they spend most of their time? That's going to tell you which social tool you're going to be using the most. That could be Instagram, it could be Twitter, but I find in the automotive world, Instagram, Facebook, those are the big ones. Yeah,
YouTube, I don't know anybody who uses Twitter.
No. I mean, it's great for some industries, but for the automotive world, it's not as widely used, I don't think. And I think that's just because car enthusiasts tend to it's a visual thing for Instagrams. So Instagram makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Facebook, you got Facebook groups where they're chatting. They're posting status updates. They have their network on Facebook. So that makes a lot of sense too. But, you know, you never know. Again, you got to sit down and really take a look at the business and really kind of find out where their audience is.
Yeah, and so kind of like to I you know, like I'm not an expert in this stuff, but it interests me a lot because it's data, and data is something that is always you know, kind of like something that I like looking at. And so I actually started a Instagram page this morning to kind of prepare myself for the interview with you to kind of see what it does. And I've never actually used it before. I know what it is. You just share pictures and you can tag people in it. And several other companies, like larger companies, have recommended to me that Instagram is a more powerful tool than Facebook now, because Facebook does a really good job of making sure nobody sees your posts from a page perspective. You know, like your individual posts are shared to everybody, but your pages are shown to very few people, which means the content you're making on Facebook is really, you have to pay to make people see it, or else nobody's going to see it, or at least a very few people. Whereas Instagram, everything you post, everybody that likes you sees it. And so I've been already, I mean, within like 15 minutes, I get more likes on one picture in Instagram than I did in several posts on Facebook. So is that kind of what you're seeing? Like Instagram is more useful in that respect?
Well, again, it's going to come back to what are you looking to get out of it? If you're looking to get a bunch of likes and a bunch of views, sure. What is going to be the result of that? What are you gaining by it? That's going to play into where you post, you know, and what you post. Yes, Facebook has changed. You know, they just changed that recently in the last 6 months of, you know, the fact that they're really pushing people to use their advertising system. So pages they see as brands, and they want brands to pay to play, basically. So yes, I will say though, if you're posting good content, if you're posting content that resonates with your audience, it's still not impossible to get a lot of views and a lot of shares and a lot of likes on stuff that you're not paying for on Facebook. It kind of goes back to how well do you know your audience and what they like and what they're going to share and what, you know, their interests, and posting content around those things to get them to share something, to comment on it, to like it. Because the more people do that, the more Facebook is going to show it. So it's still possible to use the free or to use Facebook free to get content out there. But yeah, you do have to kind of supplement that with ads. Instagram is great because they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, great keywords.
You know? Right. So yeah, I mean it's nice it's quick and easy. You know, it's really it's photos. So it's easier to share that content, especially when you're looking at photos or even, you know, videos now too. But I wouldn't bank on that forever either. You know, you still have to focus on quality and put some effort into planning out how you're going to share this content, because that's really the key to it all.
So yeah, the takeaway that I get from it is not if you're say you're selling parts, you know, maybe you sell parts on your retail store or your web store. Don't make a post every day that says 20% off all our parts. Because I don't think that's going to engage people, right? Because they see that stuff everywhere all day long. And so seeing another person advertising 20% off parts is not really a engaging post. Is that kind of what you're saying? Whereas if you post something like a video of you walking through your store and showing a build that you're doing, that's something that is more interesting to people because they can see, you know, what's going on and check out this cool, you know, like a RX-7 with an LS engine in it. You know, that kind of stuff is more interesting content, right?
It's it's really I don't know. To me, it seems like common sense, but I know to a business owner, you come into it thinking, hey, I've got to tell people about this that I sell. I've got to work on sales. I got to bring in, you know, sales, and that's always the first mindset that a business owner goes into Facebook with is, how can I tell people about all these great things that I'm selling? But yeah, most customers aren't going to want to see that type of stuff. They want to learn about you. They want to build trust with you. And you've got to look past the, you know, that need to try to sell parts and try to interact and show them content that they're really gonna, that they're gonna connect with, that they're gonna do something with. And again, it's sharing, commenting, and liking. If it's always really good to, every now and then, I always say, kind of mingle and then toss in something every now and then. Oh, hey, you know what? This month we're running this deal. Don't forget to, use this coupon code or whatever it is. Throw those in every now and then, but they always should be like one out of every 5 or so posts that you're doing, like on social media. Because that's people are going to ignore that. And if that's all you post, people are going to ignore it more. And then Facebook is never going to show your post because you're never going to get any shares. You're never going to get any comments or likes.
I have that. We have that problem. So the My Shop Assist page, we're selling software to shops, which is obviously a very
super engaging, right?
Yeah, right. Nobody wants to see posts about software, and it's very tricky to market something like that because I can't make a Facebook post about the software because nobody wants to read it. And so every post I make gets like, 5% people even see the post. And if I get 1 or 2 people liking it, it's like a good day, right? So at that point, is that content worth generating, or is it something that I should just not waste my time on?
Well, that's a great question right there, because is it worth really putting the time and effort into it if you're not going to see anything as a result? I would say that, that stuff, that I always go back to put that on your website, mention it on social media. But when you're mentioning it on social media, you kind of have to tell a quick story, say something interesting about it to get them engaged on what it is. Like, here, you're telling, for you, I'd say, hey, you're helping this client or you're helping this customer. Your customer is a shop owner, right? They're starting here. You're showing them going through the process and how your product solved a problem. And you almost have to be really good at telling short stories and good headlines to get other shop owners in those situations interested in reading that stuff, because otherwise, they're not going to. They're not going to engage with the content. So I say, yes, you still have to do it. You still have to come up with a good plan for the content strategy. But as far as how often you're posting it and where you're posting it, it's going to be a matter of, experimenting, really.
Okay, so you've mentioned this several times now on posting things on your webpage and Facebook. And so I've actually researched this a little bit on myself, and I wanted to see kind of like what was more used, whether it was my webpage or my the Facebook page. And so with Evolution Dynamics, I use Shopify, and Shopify offers some analytics. And so for analytics, for people who don't know, it tells you how many people have visited your page, how often they come back to your page, and where they're coming from your page to. So the backlinks that you were mentioning, I believe, is
right.
People click on a link that brings you to evodynamics.com, and that backlink is shown up in the analytics, and they tell you where the source is. So what's really interesting is I was actually able to go back and look and see that, my webpage I'm a small shop, so I'm not and I don't sell hardly any parts on there, and I don't actually sell the parts that are for sale on there. So it's a more so just for people to get directions and see the services I offer. But I can see that, I get 1,000 people visiting my page a month. I know that's not a lot, but then I can go back and look at the Facebook page and see it's actually less than my web page is. And so the interesting thing is, web pages are still a lot more relevant than the Facebook stuff, because that content is always, if you go to the page, you see it all, right? And that's why you're talking about all these backlinks and the importance of them, correct?
Yes. Well, okay.
Correct me where I'm wrong.
Well, no, that's true. But forget about the relevance for a second. Think about the fact that you're posting something on Facebook all the time. All the content that you post on Facebook, it goes away. It's there today and it's gone tomorrow, and nobody will ever see it again. Mm-hmm. It gets buried in a newsfeed and it's gone. The stuff that you post on your website, you're investing in your website and you're building it up. That stuff will never go away, and search engines will always be able to find it. So whether somebody's looking for it today on Facebook or 2 years from now on Google, they're not going to find it on Facebook in 2 years. They'll find it on Google because your website will come up if they're searching for those keywords that you're writing that content for.
Okay, so a good example of that is I wrote a blog post about we were measuring some aerodynamics on an actual race car we have here, and I wrote a blog post, and I posted some, results from this test that we did, and I put it on my webpage, and it's been on there basically since I made the webpage, and I would still say 25% of my web traffic is directed straight to that blog post, whereas I posted it on Facebook and nobody even knows it's there, right?
Right. Yeah, because it's gone. I mean, it's again, you have to constantly be posting on Facebook for people to see it, and they'll see it that day, maybe they'll see it that week, but after that, it disappears, and they'll never see it again. I mean, rarely do people actually jump on your page and look past a few posts down, right? It's kind of like the Google search results. If you're looking for something on Google, do you ever go to like page 2 or 3?
No, never.
No.
If it's not the first 3, I usually don't even look.
Exactly, because you know that it's probably not even relevant. Well, it's kind of the same thing on if you're looking at somebody's page, somebody's business page. You'll look at it and you'll scroll down, and then you'll just stop eventually because you'll move on to something else. And if you're depending on it showing up in people's news feeds, well, that's today, that's tomorrow, and maybe for another few days, and then it drops off forever, and then it's gone. So to me, posting all of your content on Facebook and using that as the place where you store it all, it just makes no business sense to me. To me, it's you post all that stuff, especially articles and blogs, updates and like quick updates and stuff like that. Yeah, sure. Post that stuff on Facebook, because that's not stuff that people are going to be searching for using keyword searches on Google anyways.
So if you're replacing a clutch in a car and you take a picture of it and post it on Facebook, that's better than wasting your time putting that on a web page, right?
Exactly. Quick, actionable, content like, hey, look what we just did. Oh, can you believe what we found when we pulled this engine apart? That's all quick, easy to digest content that you can throw on Facebook and in forums even too. And it'll get people talking. But if you're really, if you're using something that really lives better in a blog or an article format, by all means, you got to have that stuff posted on your site, even if you have it posted like in a forum somewhere, because if your audience still spends a lot of time in forums, well, it makes sense to post some of those articles on those forums as well. But one of the things I caution about is you don't want to give them all that great content in that forum. You want to give them some and then link back to your website, because again, that's where you want them to end up.
And you own the content on your webpage.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about that, because if it's on a forum, maybe that forum goes away one day. If it's on Facebook, it just disappears anyways. If it anywhere else, the only place where you have total ownership is on your website, and that's it. Right. I mean, if you think about it in terms of the funnel, that's where you want to funnel them anyways. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. So moving on, we've got bad reviews on Facebook and Yelp happen, and I actually had some nasty one here in the last year. What do you recommend to people of things they can do to minimize these kind of reviews?
Yeah. Well, I think you really, and I know I've said this already too, but the first step is being active in the places where your audience is, because I'd say way more than half the time, probably 9 times out of 10, most of these people who post a negative review and try to get everybody else to follow suit to help their cause, to basically put pressure on you or to get back at you for something, most of the time they will jump online somewhere and try to, get a whole. They start a witch hunt basically in a forum or in a Facebook group or somewhere. And if you're there monitoring those places, you'll see it before it actually happens. And it's when you're not paying attention is when it will happen. So first thing is be active, participate, have somebody, even if you don't have time to do it yourself, have an employee or have somebody that you trust paying attention in all those places, where your audiences are, at least where your most important audiences are. I'd say the second is when it does happen, you gotta keep a level head. You gotta be extremely professional. I mean, beyond professional. And I've dealt with a few business owners who are not that. They're actually the opposite of that. And they will, they'll say some stuff that I just, you wonder how they're in business still sometimes, because they're, they're complete assholes, but that's just who they are. And They, make no bones about it. This is who I am, and like it or not, whatever. But, for everybody else, for the rest of us that can't get away with that, you have to really take a step back and look at yourself. Are you somebody who, will come off as being too defensive, or, coming off as being accusational, where, you're just replying and saying, no, they're wrong, they're lying, or, you can't do that either. The best thing is to just keep a level head and show empathy. Say, hey, we'd love to help take care of this. Give us a call. Keep it short and sweet. And, don't do it all in public. You want to get them offline, and you want to show everybody else that's reading that stuff, hey, we're taking care of it. If it's a bunch of negative reviews and they're fake, by all means, do all you can to contact wherever it is, whether it be Facebook. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes people are able to get stuff removed from Facebook. Sometimes they can't. Facebook is heavily unmoderated. And that's one of the reasons why some pages or some companies will decide to actually turn off the reviews. And
that's important for people to know, that you can actually do that on your page.
Yes, you can. You can make it so that people cannot leave reviews on your page. And sometimes it's easy just to do that, even if it's temporarily while you get it worked out. And try to get them removed. The other thing you can do, and I always suggest this, is put the word out to your best customers. Send out an email blast to everybody and say, hey, we feel we're being unfairly attacked. For those who haven't already done so, would you mind leaving us a positive review, or an honest? I mean, you don't want to go ask and say, hey, go leave us a great review, but leave us a favorable review if you feel like you want to. That would be really helpful in this time where we're being attacked. And you'd be surprised at the type of help you'll get from your good customers. They'll jump out there and they'll leave a great review, and that sometimes, if nothing else, it can at least push down those bad reviews and help offset it while you're in the process of trying to work it out with that customer, and trying to get the fake reviews, the fraudulent ones, removed from the page. One thing I wanted to say about that too, real quick, is one of the worst things you can do is not respond. A lot of some companies will say, hey, you know what? I don't want to play into this. It's just they're completely wrong, and I'm just not even going to reply to it. You really have to. You have to show people that you care enough about your reputation and the customers that are reading this to actually say something, even if it's just, hey, you know what? Give us a call. We want to get this worked out, and make this right, or just something quick and easy. You don't want to just leave it, because people will come away making up their own decisions about the situation. And you've got to show them that you do care, and you are paying attention to what's going on.
And so shops can be proactive in I guess minimizing attacks or bad reviews by, like, for instance, I've got like 90 or some 100 reviews on Facebook, but I do 1,000 cars a year or whatever it may be, and every single one of those people could be leaving a review. So taking the preventative measures by when a customer's in your store or buy something from your webpage, say, hey, can you do us a favor and, leave us a review, and, telling people to do that. If you get even 10% of them, would be probably 10 times as many reviews as I get overall. And then it washes out the 1-star review that one pissed off customer leaves, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and you should be doing that anyways, because one thing, and I forgot to kind of touch on the local SEO part of it when we were talking about that, but one of the big things in terms of local SEO is when somebody's searching for a local shop, they're looking for like an Evo shop in, let's say, Dallas, Texas, right?
That's me.
That's you. Exactly. They're looking for them. Well, what helps you come up in local search results is reviews. If you've got a bunch of reviews on Google, if you've got a bunch of reviews in Yelp, to an extent, I mean, I've heard different stories in terms of how much Facebook reviews really helps and plays a part in the SEO. just reviews really help. So you should be doing that for more than just trying to offset negative or fake reviews. You should also be doing it for SEO reasons. And it's just good business to do that anyways. So yeah, I mean, put that in your marketing materials, put that in your shop stuff, your invoices, whatever it is, your emails that you're sending out to customers.
That's a great idea. On your invoices.
Right. Seriously. I mean, it doesn't have to always all be online. Shops do stuff with, they're still paper changing hands, right? So send them out on your invoices. If you do follow-up emails to people that have come to your shop, put them in an email system if they're okay with it. Hey, is it okay if we send you stuff out for specials? When you're sending out emails every now and then, you're going to say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, take a second to write a quick review for us on Google or on Yelp or whatever it is, wherever it is you want to write a review, give us a review.
And here's another thing you've touched on several times is emailing customers. And this is something that I'm familiar with because we've had to do it with we do it both with the My Shop Assist stuff, and now we're starting to do it with the Do It for a Living podcast as well. But there are tools you can use. So this is not just you like saving every email in Outlook and trying to email people one at a time. There's no way that would be useful. No. So Constant Contact and MailChimp are two basically, I guess you could almost call them like spam mailers, but it's not spam mail because you have to have legitimate email lists uploaded into it. So literally every customer that comes into your store you can take their email address, and if they're giving it to you, you can put it into a Constant Contact or MailChimp and add it to your email list. And then you just make one email, and Constant Contact will email it out for you, and it will tell you how many people have opened it, how many people have clicked links in it, and it gives you some more analytics based off the email, not just blindly sending out one at a time emails. That is not a very effective way of doing this, right?
Right. Yeah. No. And Constant Contact and MailChimp or MailChimp are pretty much, they're two of the most popular at doing this, and it's the most effective way of really gathering email addresses and contact information for your customers or even potential customers, and building lists and putting them in lists so that you know what you're sending out to them too. There's even, I mean, you can get really detailed on some of this stuff. I've done work in what's called life cycle marketing, and that's like that's when you start building out a whole, all stages of emails and putting people into different tracks. And this customer hasn't been in for 6 months, send them this email. This one actually came in yesterday, let's send them this email. And you start putting them in different paths. It can get pretty complex, but in the basic sense, you just want to collect an email address. Building an email list is one of the most powerful things you can do for business these days. And just so that you can send stuff out to them, because again, think about it. If you wanted to talk to all of your past customers, how would you do that?
And for people who are wondering how you collect emails, QuickBooks does it. I mean, every customer you create in QuickBooks, you can put an email address in there. We do it in My Shop Assist as well. We can track everybody's email in there. And so QuickBooks will export as an Excel, and MSA, we eventually will have that, but I can do that for you if you need it done. But yeah, that's how you collect their email addresses. It's literally just, what's your name? What's your email address? Put it in QuickBooks, yeah. And then once you want to make an email and send it out to all your customers that you have worked with before, just export the customer list and extract the email list line out of it and put it in Constant Contact, and you can make an email and send it to 10,000 people if that's how many customers you've dealt with.
Exactly. Another thing is if you're using an e-commerce program, I know like Shopify, you just jump in the back end and you can export your email list from people that have ordered from you online too. I mean, there's
probably
there's
directly
a lot of ways.
Links into them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, I've done that. Export the CSV file, and then what you can also do, you can take that a step further and take your email list, jump on your Facebook page, and then you can import, contacts from an email list to try to get, invite them to like your page. There's a whole lot of things that you can do with an email list. And I know some people are kind of, they're worried about spamming and we all receive junk mail all the time. You're not going to do it if you don't want to do it. Some people will, but don't be worried about that. You're collecting your list. You're building a list. You're saving it for when, even if you're not ready to send anything now, you're building it so that when you do have something to send, you can send it. Whatever it may be, you just have to build that list.
Yeah, and a fun story is for our My Shop Assist thing is like when we do Facebook posts, we get 0 engagement. But the interesting is we have a pretty decent list of emails that we've generated over, people signing up with the software, visiting the SEMA show, the PRI show, visiting all these shops in person. So we've built up a pretty big database of people that were willing to give us their email addresses and participate in our, our email list. And Constant Contact, we actually get substantially better results than anything. So we get, I think the industry standard is like a 0.1% open rate on a large list like that, which is, I guess that's pretty good. I don't know, but we're in the 20% open range on nearly 1,000 emails. And so, when I send an email and 200 people open it, I know then that content is being read by 200 people. And that's something that is a very powerful tool to use because I know exactly who I want to send it to. I know exactly who I want to see it. I don't have to pay anybody to deliver that message either. So
right. Well, and it also gives you more. You're learning more about your customers when you're sending that stuff out too. Because if you send something out to a list of 10,000 people and 100 people open it, okay. If you send it out to that same list and 5,000 people open it, well, that tells you right there, hey, this one worked. Right. This one worked. That one didn't. Okay, and you start. It's all about experimenting, right? You have to kind of try things out and learn what works, what doesn't, what this audience wants, and that will tell you what you can try next time. And you just, you keep throwing it at the wall, and something's going to stick. So,
and don't be afraid of people, like not wanting the emails. If they don't want it, MailChimp and Constant Contact both have the remove button, and it automatically handles it for you. And it even gives you a list of people who have either their emails have gone inactive, or it's bouncing from a full inbox, or if they wanted to be removed from the contact list. It shows you, like if you're getting a lot of people being removed from your list, your content is not good enough, right? So,
yeah. Well, and you also can't freak out about it too, because people are going to, even if you're sending out good stuff, you're going to have people just cutting back because they've got 15 other emails that day, and they're just you can't take it personal. They're just cutting down on stuff that they receive. When they're ready, they're going to remember you. They're going to contact you. It's just, you have to do it anyways. You can't be worried about people unsubscribing. It's just part of it, that all comes with the territory. So
okay,
yeah,
well, we've done enough of this the marketing stuff, and if people have more questions, they obviously know who to contact here. So we'll have all your information on the webpage, of course. But let's go back about yourself some more. What is something you struggle with in business, and how do you deal with it?
One of the things is probably what a lot of people in the Do It for a Living group struggle with, and that's trying to do everything yourself. I'm guilty of that. I do that a lot. I'm kind of a perfectionist at times, and so I want to have full control over it. But the reality is you can't do it all. Stuff just doesn't get done sometimes. So you gotta find out what you can, either send off to other people to work on, contract out. You need to kind of build a team and get help so that you can focus on things that you're really good at and the things that you can have the biggest impact on for your business. And I know that's something that I'm always trying to improve upon, but I think that's one of them. The other thing is I'm not the best salesman.
You and me both.
I really, think about it. You asked me earlier, what is Garage40? And I struggle with that sometimes, not because I don't know what I do, but I've been doing consulting for, probably 15 years now, or close to it. And I've never really built up a brand, mainly because I'm like, I'm not great at talking about myself.
The mechanic's car is the last one to get fixed, right? Your
exactly.
business is the last one to get the attention.
That's how it always is, right? I mean, you'll look at somebody else's business and sit there and go, oh yeah, oh, this is what you need to do, no problem. Oh, come on, this is easy stuff, right? It's always easier to work on somebody else's solutions, and then you turn around and you go, oh gosh, I probably should maybe reach out and do a little, try to build up some more of this or some more of that. I'll do that later. It's just something I've just never been good at.
I've always wanted to ask. So I get and I'm sure a lot of listeners who have shops get the same thing where either the automated or even an in-person call over the phone of somebody who's a SEO specialist, and they call and say, we can get your name to the top of the list. And then I always wanted to ask, well, I will use whoever is the SEO specialization optimization company that is on the top of an SEO optimization Google search, right?
Right.
And none of them are going to be on the top of the list. So
Nope. Well, and half of those companies, half the time you're talking to a somebody that they contracted out to do the sales call anyways. So they couldn't even really explain to you, how things work. So yeah, it's funny how that works.
Okay, and so for your business, what do you find is the best way to promote yourself?
For me, and I hear this a lot too, and I work a lot on referral business. People that have friends or other contacts that are looking for help, mainly because I haven't been a big, doing a great job of selling my services or promoting myself. Referrals are number one, really. When I get through and with some of these projects that I'm working on in terms of building up digital products and ebooks and guides and stuff like that, I really see Facebook and an email list as my two top ways to really start promoting what I'm doing and trying to get the word out about some of these products that I'll be putting out there.
Okay. And do you have a 1 or 5 year plan for yourself or your business?
The 1 year plan is really to just stay focused on getting those products done. Really staying. I have this goal, and I've been working on it for a while, but I really do. This is going to be my year of really finally sitting down and getting these things done, because I've been wanting to do them for a little while. The 5 year goal really is I just want to love what I'm doing. I want to sit back and every so often and just say, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This feels right. I'm helping people are getting value out of it. I feel good about it. I just want to keep loving what I'm doing.
Cool. So you're not trying to take over the world. You're just making a real sensible goal with yourself and the business, then, huh?
I think I've always had that big, huge goal. Even when I was little, I want to make a big impact. I've always loved cars. I've always loved the industry. I've always been very passionate about it. And one of my big goals was to, not necessarily take over the world, but have an impact, have a really big impact, and push it in the right direction. Maybe revolutionize some process or some part of the industry. Not so much to be. I'm a quiet guy. I like working in the background. I'm not big on media attention or anything like that. But I still want to leave an imprint in the industry somehow, and just make it better and make it so that other people that are looking to get into it are they can get into it. Whatever I do, maybe it helps them get further in what they're doing, and they can make a career out of it too. That's kind of what I hope to achieve.
Can you suggest one action item for our listeners that can improve their situation?
Really, sit down, and a lot of shops, they know where their audience is, but put it on paper. Make a list of where are the top spots my audience is, my target audience. Where are they spending most of their time? Is it in a forum? Is it in Facebook groups? Is it in multiple places? Put together a plan to be active in those places. You have to be active in those places. And I know some people, their list is going to be huge because they have a ton of different target audiences. Well, do your top 5. Come up with some number and put a plan together where it's either you, an employee, somebody you contract out to, just somebody can be active in those spots to really pay attention to what's happening in those spots in terms of how people are talking about your brand. It's got to be somebody you trust. It's got to be somebody that's professional, somebody that can represent you well, because they may not be answering tech questions for you, but at least they're carrying themselves in a manner represents your business well. So just make sure you have the right person doing it, and don't let it go, and have the plan in place, add it to the budget, do whatever you have to do, but don't let that part slip.
Cool. So moving on, let's go to the quick answer questions here. Tell us about a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
In terms of what I do, what I see happening and stuff that I'm involved with, I think one of the bigger things is Google's announcement about they changed their algorithm again, and they're giving a lot more importance to mobile-friendly sites. What that means is if somebody does a search for you on a mobile device, which I don't know, for a lot of for my businesses that I deal with, roughly half the people that come through websites that I manage, half of them are on mobile devices. And I think that trend is going to keep going up for most of us. If your site is not set up to be responsive, meaning it doesn't change to fit a mobile device, it's going to be penalized. So if your competitor has a mobile-friendly site and you don't, chances are they're going to show up higher than you, or at least that's going to be one of the ranking factors that helps them keep up with you or rank higher than you. So yeah, I mean, it's something that we're all going to have to deal with. If somebody has a website that's 10 years old or even 5 years old, chances are you're going to have to take a look at that, and it's going to be time to change it at some point.
Interesting. Okay. So what software are you using daily?
I'm probably in Photoshop a whole lot, just because I spend a lot of time, working on graphics. I'm using Facebook, I'm using Gmail, I'm using all those other things, but Photoshop is probably one of the ones that I spend a lot of time in. I'm still a creative type of guy, so I like to spend time, doing different things, designing different things, playing with different designs. So it's kind of a therapeutic for me.
So still in your roots of your background, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay. So what's a favorite app that you use daily?
For me, I'd like to say Spotify is something that I use daily. It's a music app. It's I think music has a big influence on my mood. So if I can have some music going while I'm working, that's great. It drowns out everything else, and it really, depending on whatever mood I'm in, I can change it up, and I can switch gears, and it really helps me.
Cool. And what's your favorite shop tool?
Every time Christmas or my birthday comes around, I'm always asking for tools. It always happens to be something that I love. Gear wrenches for some reason. It sounds funny, but I like any ratcheting type of wrench.
They are super useful.
Yeah, they are. And it's like you can have one set, but hey, I want every set that comes out.
And so, what kind of car are you driving right now?
Right now, my daily driver is still it's a DSM. I still have a 97, a Talon, all-wheel drive. It's a almost 20-year-old car now, and it's got its issues, but
so it is still somehow a daily driver.
it's still strangely enough, it still is a daily driver. I keep you always have to work out the little bugs, but it's still pretty fun. I don't know how long I'll have it, but it's I've got my 91, the one that started everything for me. It's still sitting on the side of the house. I haven't driven that thing in 5 years, at least 5 years now, my track car, but I just haven't had time to do any of that. You got two little girls running around the house, and
I have the same problem. I've got 3 Evos that are not going anywhere.
It really sucks. And I always said that, that's, I'll still do something, but man, it's funny how you just run out of time in the day, so.
Okay. So what do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
I don't know what the future is necessarily, but obviously turbos are really big right now. Everything that the OEMs are putting out is turbocharged, and I think that's going to be, really big for a while. Tuning software, everything that has to do with, tuning the cars. I think that's going to be pretty important. It already is, but I think it's going to become even more important, especially with how complex some of the ECUs are these days. I think you're going to see a big shift in some of those things. But it's also a matter of how strict and how limited we are in terms of what we can do to our cars because of all the laws. And I think the shops that figure it out and do it in a way that is legal and gets a lot of performance out of it, they're going to be making a lot of money. So
yeah, turbos are my favorite too.
yeah, it's been mine for a while. I'm starting to really like V8s again. I've been out of that for a long time, but
turbo V8s
are even better. So yeah, who knows?
Okay, so how do we connect with you and your company?
You know what? You can Chris at Garage40.com works. You can go to www.garage40.com. I've got a Facebook page for it. You can find it on the website. But yeah, those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me. Okay,
and for the people in the Do It For Living community page, you are an admin in there, so you are also you see posts in there, so you can get a hold of them there as well.
Yeah, you can always message me on Facebook.
Okay.
I see those.
Chris, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hope this was useful.
Thanks for listening to Do It For a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe.